It's 1:30. I'd like to call the March 21st, 2016 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission to order. Roll call. Commissioner Witcher, not available. Commissioner Littlefield, not available. Commissioner White, not available. Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here, sir.
Commissioner George, not available. And Commissioner Yockel.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum. I'd like to have a motion concerning the minutes of the February 15, 2016 meeting, please.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 15, 2016 meeting from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? And you need to vote. You still can vote on the minutes. There you go. All right, thank you. All right, minutes are approved. Report on license and record service will be presented at the April meeting. Okay, no items on the consent docket, so we go to item 5A. Omega Limo, LLC, consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Omega Limo, LLC to operate 10 vehicles in limousine service. Anybody here to speak on this item? Okay, can we have staff? The applicant's here, no problem.
I'll go ahead and make comments. You've got a completed application before you, and we would recommend approval as presented.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5A?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second for 5A?
Second.
We have a second. We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion on 5A? Okay, so we have a motion to approve item 5A from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Okay, we go on now to item 5B. Robert David Castillo, to consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Robert David Castillo, doing business as Star Limousine Service to operate 5 vehicles in limousine service. Anybody here to speak on this item? Okay, got you, sir. Can we have staff input, please?
Okay, again, you've got a completed application before you, and staff will recommend approval as presented.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Votes, please. Item is approved. Go on to 5C, Cornell S. Gallinger. Consider a request to establish a reserved parking zone for the physically disabled on the east side of North Ollie Avenue from approximately 35 feet south to 80 feet south of the south curb line of Northwest 25th Street. Anybody here to speak on this item? So we have staff input, please.
All right, you've got all our comments before you. Before we get too far into it, on the first page of your report, you'll notice that we did do a volume study on Ollie Avenue as part of this thing. That street currently carries about 165 vehicles per day. Mr. Gallagher is seeking the creation of a reserved parking zone for the disabled adjacent to his residence, which is 825 Northwest 25th Street. The municipal code makes provision for the Traffic and Transportation Commission to select and recommend for the City Council's consideration street parking locations adjacent to any private property site to be reserved for vehicle parking for physically disabled persons when it finds that adequate and convenient off-street parking is unavailable. In this particular case, when we did site investigations, I met with the applicant. There is literally no location on his property in which he can park a vehicle and then offload his mobility chair from the backside of it. He's got an exceptionally shallow driveway, and a vehicle parked in his driveway would not allow a chair to be offloaded from it. There are no other locations on this particular property where loading or unloading could occur. So the request as presented is reasonable in consideration of the guidance provided in the municipal code. for this commission to make a recommendation to the city council as far as establishing a reserved parking zone for the disabled.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5C?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Commissioner Miller. Do we have any talk on item 5C?
Just a
Ma'am?
question. Is there any condition here where additional lighting would be helpful? Just for safety, if he is parking on the street and it's not expected, is there anything, I mean, I know that's not being requested, but is there an opportunity to put some lighting for, or is the signage adequate?
Well, in this particular case, the signage is adequate. I believe, I don't think we've got a view of it, but I believe there's a street light at the corner. Now, it's not right there beside his property, but
But it's close.
It is close, and if Mr. Gallagher decided that he wanted additional lighting, he's welcome to contact OG&E or just have an additional security light attached to the exterior of his home.
Okay.
Okay, any other talk on 5C? Okay, we have a motion to approve 5C from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. 5D, Brian Fitzsimmons, AIA, President Fitzsimmons Architects, Inc., to consider a request for a mid-block pedestrian crossing on Northwest 23rd Street, approximately 250 feet east of the east curb line of North Walker Avenue. Staff input, please.
Okay, in consideration of item 5E, which is following, we're going to recommend that this particular item be struck. This is a request for a mid-block crossing only. E is written for a mid-block crossing with a pedestrian crossing signal. So in favor of considering E, would recommend striking item 5D.
And I'm good with that.
Okay, good. All right, do we have a motion for 5D?
Mr. Chairman, I move to strike item 5D.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Schuline to strike item 5D.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Hale. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to strike item 5D from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is struck. Okay, we go on now to item 5E. Brian Fitzsimmons, AIA, President Fitzsimmons Architects, Inc., to consider a request for a mid-block pedestrian crossing and pedestrian crossing signal on Northwest 23rd Street, approximately 250 feet east of the east curb line of North Walker Avenue. Sir, can I have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes, and please make sure to fill one of these out when you're done.
Okay. Brian Fitzsimmons, Fitzsimmons Architects, 2721 North Walker. And before you, it's a continuation of 5D that we talked about, where it's replaced with providing a signalized hybrid pedestrian beacon. There may be different ways to look at that, but in essence, a stop light at the pedestrian that's operates in concurrence with the nearby signal lights, so that if a pedestrian pushes a button, the lights overhead ask the vehicles to stop. Going through the report, for the most part, there's just a couple of things to highlight. We're generally in agreement with the recommendations of the report. The one thing that I would point out that is a little bit different is the time of day and the timing that the pedestrians were surveyed as far as how many cross the street. And currently, there was a maximum of 6 during 1 hour. Obviously, the theater is not open yet. We do have, I don't know if that got included, but I do have a small handout that would at least talk about what I'm getting ready to talk about as far as anticipated numbers of pedestrians. Would that be appropriate? Okay. And basically this handout in very simple terms is what we would anticipate to be a very conservative estimate of the number of pedestrians that would potentially be crossing this crosswalk from the parking lot to the Tower Theater building. And we base this preliminary on the number of parking spaces in the parking lot rather than entirely on the number of spaces or number of patrons within the building. And we anticipate that the peak times would be between the hours of 5 and 11, which would be typical for a entertainment venue and also restaurants. And so if we have 123 parking spaces and a restaurant turns over conservatively only twice a night, you can easily see that 492 people would be crossing the street, and then they have to go back. And so if you do the simple math, that's up to 164 people per hour, and that's if these businesses are moderately successful. And so that, in my mind, warrants looking ahead and planning for the crosswalk now rather than waiting until it's too late. So.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else wanting to speak on item 5E? Yes, ma'am. Can I have your name, your address? You have up to 5 minutes to make sure to fill one of these.
I will fill that out and give it to you.
Thank you.
I'm Jane Jenkins. My address is 220 Northwest 19th Street, Oklahoma City, and I just came to speak as a neighbor of the Heritage Hills area and as a frequent customer of the businesses on 23rd Street, that I think that this is an excellent idea. I think that Brian is right, that now is the time to put it in when the district is just starting to grow and garner more pedestrians, so it becomes part of the culture and safety of the district as it stands. I know lots and lots of folks, even that are coming from Heritage Hills and will be walking, would use this crosswalk. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. If I could have your name, your address, you have up to 5 minutes, and make sure to fill one of these out too, please.
Thank you. My name is Christina Mallory Chikoroski, and I am the District Executive Director of the 23rd District Association. This completely impacts the way that we do business with not only our neighbors, but all of our visitors in the 23rd Street District. We have not only the Tower Theater, but also the businesses going in front of the Tower Theater, along with Oklahoma City Community Church, which just opened their doors in December at 420 Northwest 23rd, and we're really excited to have, they have about an average attendance of about 200 members on a Sunday morning. So they were unable to make this meeting, so I'm also speaking on their behalf as well. We also have 23rd Street Body Piercing, Good Egg Dining groups like Cheevers. We have an architecture firm, all of that on the north side of 23rd Street that are immediately impacted by the positive influence of a pedestrian light right in that mid-block crossing. So as Uptown 23rd, we are in favor of this mid-block crossing. It would help our pedestrians stay safe. It would help all day long, not just in the evening times, but it would also create a more walkable environment for all of our visitors and all of our neighbors. So thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Yes, sir. And what's your name, sir?
My name is Richard Free.
Okay, I already have one of these, so you have up to 5 minutes. And I need your name and address.
My name is Richard Free. I live at 124 Northwest 16th Street in Oklahoma City. Thank you, Traffic Commission. I am a resident of Oklahoma City and an employee and representative of Atomic Lotus Tattoo and 23rd Street Body Piercing. I'm here today to speak in behalf of the traffic light and pedestrian crossing in the mid-block between Hudson and Walker on 23rd Street. Our business has been at 411 Northwest 23rd Street for over 19 years. Traffic on this road does not yield to pedestrian traffic. Currently, my clients and fellow co-workers who park on the south side of the street are put in danger every time we have to cross the street to get to our cars, to get to work, or if we're just crossing the street to get food. The dangerous part of the options that we have are we can either go 1 block up, 3 blocks over to use the crosswalk lights, which realistically people aren't going to do because I'm not going to walk an extra 6 blocks across the street. Or we can try and use the current crosswalks that are there. The dangerous part of that is that no one yields to pedestrian traffic there, including police officers and city workers. I've had to stop in the middle of the street previously as police cars were just driving through nonchalant, not looking at pedestrians. Currently, we have hundreds of clients every week that have to cross that street, and it just gets dangerous and dangerous. And as more and more businesses come down here, there's going to be more and more pedestrian traffic. So for the safety of everyone in this area, I ask you guys to support this and give us our crosswalk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir? If I could have your name, your address, make sure to fill out one of the blue forms, and you have up to 5 minutes.
The blue forms, I find those out there.
They're right here. Well, they're right there, yeah.
My name is Ken Stoner. I'm a resident of Oklahoma City. I'm also a property owner on 23rd Street. I own the building at 416 Northwest 23rd Street, which is directly across from the Tower Theater. What's actually out, you come out the Tower Theater's here, and then 23rd Street Body Prison's there. So my building, it's a little gray building with an orange door. It's right there to the east of the parking lot that's just been constructed. Tremendously improved that area. And I'm just here to support the effort. I think it's a very prudent thing to do. I frequently cross that street there just to go across to grab lunch in different locations, whether it's Gusto around the corner or the Pump or Cheevers. There's a lot of traffic there, and I think it'd be a very prudent decision, and it's only going to get more and more and more as that property, those vacancies over there fill in. So as a property owner, I'm in support of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else wanting to speak on item 5E? Okay, can we have staff input, please?
All right, you've got our complete report before you. Just looking ahead to the recommendation portion of the staff report, action on this item is going to be at the discretion of the commission. When this location was reviewed against the criteria regarding the use of a pedestrian hybrid signal, which according to the manual on uniform control devices may be considered for installation to facilitate pedestrian crossings at a location that does not meet traffic signal warrants, it was found that the requested mid-block crossing currently does not have pedestrian volume sufficient to meet the minimum threshold volumes specified in Chapter 4 of the MUTCD. Those volumes look at a minimum pedestrian crossing based on automobile traffic or roadway traffic for this location. The minimum threshold volume is 20 pedestrians per hour. Our current study indicates that it gets, when we did a study, over a 9-hour period, we observed 22 pedestrians, of which 6 crossing occurred during one particular hour, and that's between 2 and 3 p.m. Just at this point in time, there's just not justification for staff to recommend the requested mid-block pedestrian signal. Should the commission approve the request, staff recommends that a motion for approval include the following: and that the on-street parking be restricted within 100 feet on both approaches to the crossing and within 20 feet from the crossing on the departure side for pedestrian safety. These are recommendations that come from the manual on uniform traffic control devices. And the other recommendations, the applicant agree to bear the responsibility for the preparation of the construction documents by a licensed professional engineer, and also bear primary financial responsibility for the construction costs of the traffic control signal improvements. So action on this item is be at the commission's discretion.
Hey, do we have a motion concerning item 5E?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the mid-block crossing. It's an important component of the Uptown Urban Environmental Framework that was developed by the Planning Department and the Institute for Quality Communities at OU and the Uptown 23rd District. I really do strongly support this application. Recommend approval. With provision that on-street parking be restricted with 100 feet on both approaches to the crossing and within 20 feet of the crossing on the departure sides for pedestrian safety. And number 2, that the applicant agree to bear responsibility for the preparation of the construction documents by a licensed professional engineer, and also primary financial responsibility for the construction costs of the traffic control signal improvements.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second for item 5E?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Yonkel. Do we have any discussion on this item? Go ahead, ma'am.
I appreciate your tenacity on this item, for one. You've been back a few times. I like tenacious people. You know, I'm just thinking out loud here. I appreciate, I'm a little challenged, the numbers aren't there to warrant it, but what I appreciate about this is that you're trying to get ahead of it. What you don't want to do is be reacting to, heaven forbid, some unforeseen or very foreseeable potential problem. So today's presentation on this has converted me, because I wasn't exactly there before. But the information, the forethought, the let's get ahead of it, because there is such an effort to grow, and belief by your neighbors who see the value in it. And there was value in every single person's point of view that was here today. I encourage the individual to express their voice. It is so important. So I just want to know, everybody's message impacted me. And I appreciate the forethought and the tenacious approach that you've had in continuing to present this, for whatever that's worth.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just a couple of things. Stuart, is that 23rd Street corridor, is that coordinated?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so this crossing, would it be coordinated with the existing lights that are coordinated?
It'll have to be coordinated.
Okay, so you're going to have a bunch of pedestrians standing there waiting for a light that's going to coordinate with the others, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm trying to get...
Okay, I think what Commissioner Hale's trying to get across is that a pedestrian crossing signal at this location, if someone to walk up to it and push the button, basically putting in a call for service, the call will be locked in immediately, but the signal won't act upon it immediately necessarily,
Right.
because it'll be subject to running that signal in coordination with the other signals that are on 23rd Street. So it will provide an opportunity to cross, but it won't just interrupt traffic on 23rd Street.
Which is
So
probably a
basically,
good thing.
it would be like being at the light.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. My biggest concern, and I understand, I really do, and I'm glad we've got people promoting business on 23rd and it's coming back. What the gentleman said about drivers not looking, I'm just really concerned that you're going to have somebody thinking that they can safely cross and a driver not paying attention. I mean, if not looking, walking into harm's way, to where had they gone just a few feet further down and crossed with the light, that may be averted. That's just my thoughts on it. I just am concerned that we're going to give the impression on one of the busiest streets in the city that you can safely cross right here instead of at the intersection.
So I want to further your concern here. Is the idea that when the button is pushed, the pedestrian may not be patient enough to wait for it to be coordinated and may cross? So not only is that part of it, I mean, it sounds like it's a bigger concern, even that I'm not challenging the nature of the concern, but I just may not fully grasp what you're saying. But I think the part I am grasping is very important. There's going to be some patience needed by the pedestrians, and maybe it's additional signage. Push your button and then get some patience, because it can't be push and run. So I'm just
And I think
I'm just thinking out loud here again. It's important that a coordinated effort means there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and I would like to think that a pedestrian, in essence, it does work similar to how a crosswalk works at a normal intersection, where you push the button and you wait for the signal that it's safe to cross, or there's the walking symbol. And it would work the same. So a pedestrian should be used to that notion. I believe the one person who spoke about crossing, they're probably also talking about the Hudson crossing, where there is no light, but there is a crosswalk. And there's many of those intersections along 23rd where there's crosswalks but no light, and you're just hoping for the best when you cross the street. And so we're going a step better than that.
So it would possibly be similar to just like what's right out here. You push the button and you get a voice signal that says, okay, you want to cross here, and then there's a countdown or something. Would it be similar to that maybe?
It would be very much identical to something like that,
Okay.
yes.
So it would give you that countdown, 10, 9, 8, whatever, and then it would show walk-in signal, which would mean that the lights would be saying stop, and they would cross. So it'd be similar to what's right out here,
Yes.
to the new age stuff. That's all the new stuff. Okay? Yes, sir.
I've got a comment.
Understand that pedestrians, it's be similar to a normal crosswalk now with the signals, the flashing light, walk, don't walk. It's the drivers in the vehicles that's got to get used to the new signal. All of a sudden, they're going to see something dark up there. Well, that signal's not working. Then all of a sudden, it's going to go to flashing yellow, then a steady yellow, and then a flashing red, then a steady red. So it's the road user that's got to be concerned about what's going in here a little bit, and he won't get what kind of protection for him. And the other question I have, what is the level of service on 23rd Street right now, and what impact does that have? This Hawks, another signal, coordinating it, even coordinating it with the other signals, have on that level of service?
Well, just based on traffic volume alone, with 23rd Street carrying just shy of 30,000 vehicles per day, with on-street parking allowed on both sides of the roadway, that road's got to be probably running typically a level of service D ordinarily. There's really not much room for maneuvering, so I mean it's very tight quarters, even though it is posted at 30 miles an hour. And also we had done some talking internally. I know that that probably in this particular location, as opposed to using a pedestrian hybrid beacon, it would probably just be a standard signal setup that would be operated for it. And also, we'd done some internal, when we were kind of brainstorming what something like this might look like, we would probably need to look at louvering some of the signal heads over at 23rd and Walker, because as you approach from, say you're coming from the east and you're headed west, we would probably want to louver the signals over at Walker Avenue, so you'd only be presented with the signal at the crossing first, and once you're beyond that, then you'd be seeing the signal for the next intersection, as opposed to trying to interpret two really closely spaced intersections. And we'd probably do the same thing for eastbound traffic as well. So we'd probably have the Walker signal would be always visible, and we'd probably put louvers inside the signals at the pedestrian crossing. So you'd only come across, basically from a visual perspective, you'd see one set of signals at a time.
And the road user is the one that's got to get used to those.
That's correct.
The everyday commuter, they'll eventually, but it's a little, but you didn't answer my question about the level of service by putting it in.
Well, if coordinated, I wouldn't imagine it would probably have the ability to degrade the level of service. I mean, during the peak hours, I'm sure it's probably running close to a level of service F, maybe E or F, somewhere in there. So really, and typically speaking, during the morning peak hour traffic, you probably wouldn't see any difference, because there probably won't be any call for service for the pedestrian crossings. So for most morning commuters, they would probably not notice it. I tend to, and based on what the applicants talked about, it sounds like this will probably get more evening type use when there are events taking place at the Tower Theater, or it might get more maybe midday use, but probably not so much during the traditional AM PM peak hours.
Well, anyone walking there can decide to cross the street. It's going to interrupt it. You're promoting a bunch of pedestrian traffic anyway, so if anyone.
Right, that's correct. But I mean, if aside from the, I mean, with the existing level of development along 23rd in this area, I mean, we did a 9-hour ped count and we had 22 crossings observed over the course of a regular day. If most of the events are going to be evening related, so chances are you're not going to see the interruption to regular daytime traffic as a result of a signal being approved for this location.
But the way I understand it, though, is if the lights just turned green on the street, and I walked up and pressed the crosswalk button, it'll cue it, but then the timer system kicks in, and if it's a 1 minute, 90-second, whatever the normal, got to stay green on 23rd at the AM time, it'll stay green at the normal time, whether I was at that crosswalk or at the crosswalk at the light. I would still have to wait for the time and sequence to still work. So I don't see how, somebody comes up, pushes the button, crosses, somebody right behind them comes up, pushes the button. It's not going to just back up traffic. It'll just cue it for a normal sequence time.
Yeah, the concern with that is they're going to push that button and they don't realize it's coordinating with these others, so it's got to cycle through and clear out the traffic till it comes back to them. If they get impatient and try to cross without the light.
Well, and that's the same thing that happens here, is as soon as you push that button, it tells you, wait, 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 and then it'll do the countdown, and then you're good to go. So you got 30 seconds left. And you see all the cars going, you got 25 seconds left, you see all the cars going, and then eventually the light comes on, it gives you the clear to walk.
Can you use a countdown with coordination?
Yes, you can.
It'll know the maximum amount of time it has to. Yeah, it could be as much as the maximum green time on 23rd, right? And if you got, what's your cycle length there? You got 125 seconds probably, or 150?
I couldn't tell you offhand. That particular corridor varies based on the time of day as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So morning would be, but it would be minimum of evening, wouldn't it?
I would think so.
I think so. After 5, 7 probably. I don't.
Okay. Sir, do you have anything else? Okay. Ma'am, do you have something else?
I think this is just illustrated, really. At a certain point, and the countdown completes, and the light change, it's the pedestrian's choice at that point. And that we can't control. So the way it's timing and in coordination seems to make this the most feasible setup for success. Now, I think that's adequate. I think that's appropriate.
Okay, any other talk? I got 3 items, but anything else from you guys? All right, the 3 I got is, when you say primary cost to them, is that 50.1%? What's primary cost?
100%. It would be, at this point in time, because it's not being, this is an improvement being sought to support a private development, and because there are no warrants met for the use of this particular type of traffic control at this point in time, it would just be, the applicant will bear the primary responsibility for seeing that it goes in. They will take the lead, for lack of a better term.
So you understand that?
We understand that.
Okay, just want to make sure it wasn't the 50.1%.
We're working for other ends.
Okay, very good. Second, you talked about you observe a car go into that medium area and do a U-turn kind of thing. It was in the report. Could we put 2 caution poles there, yellow caution poles, or could that be put in there? I'm not saying pole bollards kind of stuff, but just something to give a indication that that's a closed road.
Right, there'll have to be something that's placed there. Right. Typically, anything we place in an opening like that, it has to be,
and we are
crash-worthy, so that, in the event that someone loses control, they don't wind up, running into something that might cause them physical injury. It would be something that would be clearly obvious to a point where it would discourage a driver from even.
Yeah, that's all I'm talking. The 3-4 foot yellow post kind of thing, just something to say, don't turn in there.
Yeah, at least preliminary until we have it completely engineered, would be placing bollards or acceptable devices that would choke down that median cut.
Okay. And then the last thing is, do we want to maybe cut down a couple trees if this was done? And I know we love our trees, but we're concerned about, once you get to the medium part, can you still be seen? That was part of the concern from the city. Would maybe cutting 2 trees on each side help in the line of sight kind of thing? Not
Well,
saying you got to, it's just something.
Yeah, and at this point in time, if a signal is installed that would halt traffic, provided pedestrians are crossing, when they've got the pedestrian crossing light to go through, the use of a signal kind of negates the need to remove anything offhand. If it was just, now, that was kind of a more important thing when the original application was heard, because it was just for a mid-block crossing. And so if in a case like that, if a pedestrian were to get, break in traffic and go halfway across, to stand and wait in the median to complete a crossing, they might be standing in a location where they might be invisible to approaching traffic. And it would matter more in a situation like that. Now, there may be a need to do some trimming to the trees' canopies in order to make some of the signals more easily, more readily visible, but as far as tree removal goes, it may be premature to say anything like that.
No, okay. So it was mainly off of the first input?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Okay. Any other discussion on item 5E? Yes, ma'am.
Just clarification. So primary and fully unfunding feels slightly different to me. Is the motion for it to be fully funded through this effort? What's the difference between fully funded and primarily funded?
Well, the Commission's action in this item is to consider whether or not a mid-block crossing should be authorized here with signalized control. And then the aspect of funding, in this particular case, like I said, since the location currently doesn't meet any criteria for the use of mid-block signal, it's optional at this point in time. It may be beneficial on down the road as the area further develops, but at this point in time, there's just not justification for the city to take on primary financial responsibility for putting in an improvement such as this, because the demand does not yet exist.
Okay. And then do the plans, once finalized and engineered, come back through here, or do they go somewhere else?
They're just reviewed through the Public Works Department.
Okay. Any other talk on 5E? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5E, which includes the two staff recommendations by Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Yonkel. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Okay, we go on now to item 5F, John Clark, to consider a request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of South Cemetery Road and Southwest 29th Street. Do we have anybody here to talk on item 5F? Okay, can we have staff input, please?
All right, you've got our comments before you. When we evaluated this particular intersection for traffic signal warrants, we found that it does not have sufficient volume and doesn't meet any of the criteria established in the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices for the use of traffic signal control. We also did a supplemental review of the intersection based on the MUTCD's criteria established for all-way stop control. Because of the difference in traffic volumes between Cemetery Road, which carries about 6 times the volume of Southwest 29th Street, it was found that this particular location does not meet the warrants for use of all-way stop control. So at this point in time, staff does not have cause to recommend the use of signalized traffic control at this particular intersection.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning 5F?
Motion to deny.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hill to disapprove item 5F. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion on this item? Okay, we have a motion to disapprove item 5F from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is not approved. We go on to 5G. Brett E. Fisher, President, B&L Unlimited, Inc., doing business as Dean's Drive-Thru Pawn Shop, to consider a request to establish 30-minute time-limited parking on the north side of Southwest 25th Street from approximately 105 feet west to 170 feet west of the west curb line of South Robinson Avenue. Anybody here to speak on item 5G? Sir, if I can have your name, your address. You have up to 5 minutes. When you're done, please fill one of these out.
All right. Brett Fisher, 9600 Chloe Lane in Norman. I own Dean's Pawn Shop right around the corner from this. I have 3 commercial properties, One of them is a AA, a bakery, and a boot place. Parking's been a huge issue down there. I've been down there since 1968. So when it was up, down, now it's coming back. It's brought to my attention, I don't really like the no parking signs. I'm very heavily involved with the Main Street organization, and the Traffic Commission sent out things a long, long time ago to have everybody sign off. Nobody could agree on anything. So what it's done is it's a per request. OCCC's new south location, in the packet, it's a 25th and Hudson, has 15 minutes parking. There's 3 or 4 spots there. Grill on the Hill has an hour parking right across the street. And then the bank, Union Bank, has, so it's 15, 30, and an hour. The people that rent from me, they love the area, but they have mentioned that they may have to move because there isn't enough parking there. So I agreed on their behalf, and they all 3 signed off on my petition, is to have a 30-minute no parking, 30-minute limit. Because they're in and out buying boots. The AA places in the evening, I've talked with them, and to not take up all the parking spot. The bakery's open from very early in the morning till 9 o'clock. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And the plans that I drew up are the 5 parking spots right in front of my 3 properties.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Can we have staff input, please?
All right, you've got our comments before you. The request submitted by Mr. Fisher is seeking the introduction of a 30-minute time-limited parking restriction on 5 existing parking spaces on the north side of Southwest 25th Street. As he mentioned, in the adjacent block to the west, there are a series of spaces that are time-limited for 15, 30, and 1-hour use. This particular request is the first to introduce a time-limited zone on the block of, well, on this block of Commerce Avenue. So action on this particular item would be at the discretion of the commission, but I think in recognition of support from business operators and the owner of the property, staff could recommend approval of the request as presented.
And you have a motion for 5G.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve Mr. Fisher's request to make time-limited parking as indicated.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Yonkel. Do we have any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5G from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Yonkel. Can we have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Welcome. Yes, sir.
I was contacted by the applicant for item 5H, which is for the consideration of a traffic signal at the intersection of Harvey and West Memorial Road. The applicant has requested that this item be continued to the May meeting since they're not able to attend this meeting, and they're also unable to attend the April meeting.
Okay. Do we have a motion concerning item 5H?
I'll make the motion to extend it as requested.
We have a motion from Commissioner Miller to move this item to the May agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion? Okay, a motion to approve or to agree with the applicant to move this item to the May agenda from Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Schuline. Votes, please. Okay, item is moved. We go on now to 5I, Branson Young, JHBR Architecture, Inc. Consider request to establish a reserved parking space for the physically disabled within an inset parking area on the east side of North Durland Avenue from approximately 23 feet south to 45 feet south of the south curb line of Northeast 4th Street. Anybody here to speak on this item? We have staff input, please.
All right. Considering the limited traffic access conditions to North Durland Avenue and the absence of any on-street parking locations reserved for use by the physically disabled on this particular street, staff can recommend approval of the request as presented.
And do we have a motion concerning 5I?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Miller. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Yonkel. Any discussion on 5I? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5I by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Yonkel. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Comments from citizens? Okay, reports from traffic commissioners, et cetera. We'll go here with Commissioner Hale.
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Schuline.
Nothing, thank you, sir.
Commissioner Miller.
Nothing, sir.
Commissioner Yonkel. Okay. Do you have anything, sir?
Nothing, sir.
Okay, council? Staff?
I have nothing further to add.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Do we have a second? All vote? And we're out of here.